जानेआलमखाकी टीवी देखने वाले तमाम व्यूअर्स को वेलकम। मुझे उम्मीद है आप सब ठीक ठाक होंगे। आप जानते हैं कि मैंने एक सीरीज ऑफ डिस्कशंस शुरू किया है दुनिया के मुख्तलिफ आम लोग, मिडिल क्लास और थिंकर्स को इनवाइट करना शुरू किया है, जहां वो अपनी ज़िंदगी के बारे में बहुत कुछ हमें बताते हैं। I'm happy to share with you that today I have invited a very distinguished professor of education, Associate Professor Dr. Duishon Shamatov, a faculty member, Graduate School of Education, Nazarbayev University, Astana, Republic of Kazakhstan, Central Asia. I'm sure you must be hearing lots of things very generally through newspapers, through books, articles, and what have you. Central Asia is a very buzzword. Lots of people use it frequently. So today we are privileged to have with us Professor Dr. Duishon. We happened to study together at the University of Toronto, did a PhD together. That's how we knew each other, but also we worked with the Aga Khan University for some time. That's how we know each other. More than that, we share lots of ideas. We love to have fun. We love to sing. Mr. Duishon knows, Professor Duishon knows quite a bit of Urdu language as well. I'm sure many other languages he knows apart from Kazakh language. So without much ado, let me invite Professor Dr. Duishon. Welcome, Duishon, from Astana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. I am very pleased to be the guest.
Your family?
They are fine. They are doing well. Well, this difficult time all over the world, but we are striving, we are surviving, and keeping the positive mode.
Excellent, excellent. Duishon, would you like to start introducing yourself, first of all, a couple of sentences for our viewers, though I just said a couple of things, but you can speak some of the things I would like us to know as a professor of education and living as you are in the Central Asian country, one of the Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan. Can you give us a sense of scale of what is Central Asia? And then you can focus on Kazakhstan.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I am very pleased to be to join you in this your channel TV and to be able to share my ideas, and I hope that the viewers may take something useful from this video. Regarding Central Asia, I come from a neighboring country, Kyrgyzstan, or Kyrgyz Republic officially, and I'm currently working in Kazakhstan. So my journey to this stage has been really full of different sometimes challenges, exciting events, meeting so many wonderful people. As famous Bengali philosopher Tagore said, there are no strangers in this world. There are good friends whom you have never met. Similarly, I was able to meet wonderful people in my life, including Janealamkhaki, yourself. So Central Asia, I grew up in a small village, relatively small village, in the family of the farmers. I literally spent a lot of time in my childhood helping my father and mother to grow vegetables, melon, watermelon, potato, whatnot, working in the cotton field. Eventually, then I went to school, then I went to university, then I was accepted to study in Pakistan, Karachi, at the master's level, and then I studied in Canada. I returned to Central Asia, and then currently working in Kazakhstan. Central Asia is a very historically very valuable place. That it is a cradle, kind of a Central Asia. I would call it. It's a mix. It's a blend of different cultures. It's between Europe and Asia, and also it is actually Central Asia, where my country is on the Silk Road, when so historically it's well known, and also I think great Muslim philosophers, scholars actually came from Central Asia. It's a very historically very rich place culturally. There are so many languages, and I think what I think is, of course, we don't have access to the sea, or we don't have access to ocean, but the culture is very diverse but very beautiful scenery, and I think it's a remarkable place. Janealamkhaki, you need to visit it one day.
Duishon, thank you very much. By the way, I am really privileged to have traveled. You know, from London, I went to I think Bishkek, no, Tashkent. With a group of scholars, flew to Tashkent, and from Tashkent, you know, then we traveled to Tajikistan by road, 18 hours by road. I can never forget that journey. Powerful experiences. Interestingly enough, on the way in this 18 hours journey, there was not a single place where we could have a cup of tea.
Oh.
Stretched. We traveled. There were a couple of you know, other Western friends as well, scholars, and they had terrible problems on the way. They had the stomach problems, and we had really difficult time for those kinds of problems. But otherwise, you know, awe-inspiring and inspiring, or creating, or inspiring, you know, scenes. The mountains full of clad with full of snow, and you know, marvelous tunes of snow. Finally, at midnight, we reached to Tajikistan. So I have been privileged to have a feel of these countries. But let me say, something that was marvelous for me was I felt like being in the northern areas of Pakistan. We call it now Gilgit-Baltistan. Having come from Hunza, for me, the rural area, culturally, I felt like at home, particularly the music, the dances. And the Tajikis were surprised to see me the way I danced with them. So that was a marvelous experience. So I have some sense, but our viewers, you know, many of them or most of them might not have any experience of Central Asia. It's a fabulous region to be once in life, at least. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, as we generally, you know, connect all these Central Asian countries, do you see any particular thread of culture among all these countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, or they are totally different in their cultures, Duishon?
Linguistically, most of these countries are Turkic-speaking countries. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and then Azerbaijan, etc. These are Turkic-speaking countries, while Tajikistan is a Persian-speaking country. But nevertheless, there is a lot of cultural similarity. You can notice it in the musical instruments they play, or melody is very like a more or less very similar, but also a lot of food, dress, not identical, but a lot of similarities, and also very cordial relationship between these. And this, surprisingly, I was also able to visit the northern areas of Pakistan and the Chitral. I saw a lot of similarities that you described in terms of food. Even names of some of the food are very similar. So I was very surprised. And then I think earlier you were mentioning about traveling long distance, and I enjoy traveling this 16-hour, 18-hour travel through high mountain, very picturesque places. But at times it's very dangerous. You can see deep down there is a river, and it's very dangerous. Sometimes accidents take place, but it's an unforgettable travels. You know what, Dr. Sap?
Yes.
Sometimes I joke like this. There are some impatient friends. They are always impatient. They are in a hurry all the time. They ask, when can we reach? When can we reach? I joke, we must put these into the car and send them from Osh to Horok, Dushanbe to Horok, or Bishkek to Osh. Then they will not be asking questions like Shrek's donkey. When can we reach? Are we there yet? Because you need to just sit in a car, relax, enjoy.
See, you are now sensitizing to be poetical. The poets, in many ways, have said the joy is not reaching the destination. The joy is in the process, in the journey, right? So the same thing was for me as well. Just driving on the way was great pleasure. Reaching Tajikistan was not something new for me. I just thoroughly enjoyed. Duishon, I'm wondering, there are lots of things both of us can talk, but we will hopefully do more videos later on, focusing on some key interesting dimensions of Central Asia. But now I'm just wondering, we'll pick up some key threads. Just last a bit about this Central Asian scenario. At one time, Samarqand and Bukhara of Uzbekistan, probably they're in Uzbekistan right now.
Yeah, they are in Uzbekistan
under
now.
Uzbekistan. So they were, like London and Paris of the classical times. They were so famous. And as a poet has said, probably Sadi or somebody else has said something marvelous and saying, the dot of the beauty on your face, I can actually sell, Samarkand and Bukhara to buy that.
Yeah.
So they were the most precious cities of the time in classical times. What do you hear today? What is their status? Are they still that famous? Or has that, popularity dwindled? Just one or two sentences about Samarkand and Bukhara that probably lots of audience would know about.
Samarkand and Bukhara, they have been historical heritage. It's such a valuable place, and it reminds of the great Muslim growth of that time. And nowadays, even nowadays, these are the great tourist destinations in Uzbekistan. So many people, if they come to Uzbekistan, if they come to Central Asia, they prefer to visit those places because this is really historical. And when I went to Pakistan, I saw a lot of similar constructions, and that was not surprising. When I visited Punjab, Lahore, I saw all of them from this Mughal times, and it's not surprising because at that time, of course, there were no borders, and there were no visas, there were no checks and etc. A lot of architects from Central Asia moved, and they were building similar constructions. But I think Samarkand and Bukhara are not the only ones. There are so many other places, like in Turkestan. There is a mausoleum also in Turkestan, in Kazakhstan. But even in Osh, my hometown, I can say it's my hometown. It's 15 kilometers from my village. We have a Tahti Sulaiman, or the mountain of Solomon. And there are different versions about the origin, but it's a really holy place. Many people who come to Osh, they try to climb the mountain. It's in the middle of the center. By the way, one of the prime ministers of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto, when she was a prime minister, she also visited and climbed that mountain. It's a very remarkable story about it. So I think Central Asia is renowned for those cultural places, and I think, of course, tourism is developed, but it would be even better if we improve service so that if we can do better advertisement, many tourists could come to Central Asia.
Right. Thank you very much, Duishon. We will continue to explore these historically very important cultural, icons as we move forward. I would like to come to more focused area of this whole notion of life in Central Asia. What do you think is the notion of life in Central Asia? it's difficult to generalize. I'm aware of it. But generally, how is life seen in Central Asia? Your own experience of what is life? I know there's a quite a liberal environment there. Life is, observed through different ways, enjoyed through different ways. But one or two sentences, how do you think people see life in Central Asia?
As you rightly said, it's difficult to generalize, but nevertheless, let me share key points that from my observation. One of them is that Central Asians are deeply attached to the places where they are born, to the land.
Land.
It can be represented in the poetry, in the songs. They long for the places where they are born if they are not at home. They really have so kind of a special attachment to the land they are born. That's number one. Number two, I think a lot of Central Asia is also kind of a symbiosis, and we have plurality of the views. We have a group of people who think that in ancient times we were the great people, and there is a nostalgia about it, and then we need to rebuild that greatness again. But also there are others who are saying, no, I think that we need to really pay attention to education, technology, science. We need to really integrate, etc. Or there are other people who think that, well, we were the descendants of the great people, so we can. I think this is a mixture of it in Central Asia. But what makes me really happy that there are a lot of people also what Anthony Appiah would call, and I think Sarfaroz, my friend Sarfaroz also likes to quote, there are people who are rooted cosmopolitans.
Cosmopolitan.
You can be cosmopolitan, but you don't have to forget about where you are from. That's really being rooted cosmopolitan. Being cosmopolitan means that you are so fluid. You are good at intermixing with different cultures, but at the same time, you don't have to forget about who you are. So I think this is a nice blend of everything in Central Asia.
Okay, interesting. Yes, I would have imagined. So this urge of modernity and the sense of belonging to tradition, is across, particularly that, in developing countries, in Muslim majority countries, and everywhere. This is there. Not just in Muslim societies, but other societies as well. And I absolutely agree with you, Duishon. You make an important comment. I think the struggle is, being diverse in ways of thinking, but at the same time, say, a sense of unity with a number of factors from where you emerge as a human being. This tension between these two, many people have used it very constructive. You and I are a good example, let us say. We studied in different countries, including Canada, but nowhere I felt contradiction. Let me say this. Frustration that this is not mine. Now, personally, Duishon, I look at these things from human perspective. If you look at it as a Kyrgyz, as a Pakistani, as a Tajiki, you might have a different perception. But moving away from all this, if we were to look at this as human civilizations, human religions, human cultures, human science, human religions, believe me, then there is no issue. Everything is yours. Everything is mine. This is human contribution. Central Asia contributed at times, and many other places contributed at times. And today, many Western civilizations are contributing to human well-being in many ways. So if we look at this way, we don't see any confrontation with civilizations or clash of civilizations, as one calls, So I think you're making an important point. Coming down to education, if I were to ask you about education, it will be unfair with you being a thinker of education and a professor of education. That's important. What is the core value or core orientation in education? Duishon, in Kyrgyz, or if you would like to comment on Kyrgyz education, as well as, Kazakhstan and Central Asia, or Asia overall, including Tajikistan. Would you like to make a couple of comments,
Yes,
particularly after the freedom, as you call it, from 90s onwards?
and can you imagine, today is the 31st of August, and it is the Independence Day of Kyrgyzstan. 30 years ago, we gained independence. Exactly, it's just coincidence. It's a big holiday, big day for me.
Interesting.
Well, education-wise, I think there were a lot of attempts to improve, both in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, overall in Central Asia. But sometimes these attempts were successful, but at times they were not successful. The attempts are being done is really to provide such type of education which will be of the highest quality, comparable with international standards, and hopefully within European benchmarks, because Kazakhstan has signed the Bologna principles. And also I think providing education which is equitable and fair to all layers of population, because on paper Soviet Union was an egalitarian country. After the Soviet Union broke up, what was a time when like a liberal market, capitalism came to Central Asia, which means that, well, survival of the fittest. But I think initially it was really kind of if you are rich enough, if you are wealthy, you can provide better education to your kids. But eventually, I think there's more and more realization that this will lead to, unfortunately, to segregation, and will be increasing the gaps between different layers of the population. Therefore, equity is a big on across Central Asia now. I think even rural kids should be getting good education.
Okay.
Yep, these are few ideas about education. Yep.
Excellent. When I visited Tajikistan, Duishon, I remember, I found marvelous schools, man. Having come from Pakistan, I could, see the state of our schools, and you have visited, and we have together seen many schools. But in Tajikistan, schools, almost all schools, centrally heated, air conditioned, the kind of facilities they have had. But poor people, it was probably late 90s when I visited. So at that time, they were grappling with this issue of managing to upkeep the schools, with the standards that were already there before 90s, early 90s. They were struggling. I'm not sure at what stage they are today. Are you struggling with these kinds of issues also of maintaining school, maintaining the infrastructure and what have you?
Yes, I think Soviet Union broke up and it's history, and we need to rebuild and to really develop sometimes even from scratch. So because a lot of kindergartens were just privatized, and the buildings of the preschool institutions were given to people who were using their personal use. They were sold, and management has been big issue. But also one of the key issues I think is the lack of very sound leadership in education, leadership based on empirical research based, like decisions on education have to be made based on a very good research. But unfortunately, sometimes there is a dependency on external expertise to solve the problems of Central Asia, which I don't think is sustainable, which I don't think it will be good for in the longer run. Therefore, there is a great need to develop capacity of the local policymakers, local officials, education officials, so that they can really play key role in not only managing but leading the institutions, so that it's in a transformative way they can lead to the better situation. Otherwise, I think nowadays there is a lot of there are many good ideas, but unfortunately they are tested outside of Central Asia and they are brought to Central Asia.
Okay, interesting. Wondering the university you are serving, Duishon. First of all, give us a sense of the name. Nazarbayev. I don't know how you spell it. I have difficulty. I can pronounce Arabic and Persian name, but this is more Russianized probably. The university, can you tell us one or two things about the university that you are serving?
Yep, with pleasure. I work at Nazarbayev University. Nursultan Nazarbayev was the first president of Kazakhstan since independence. He is the first president, and he has a special status even now. Nursultan Nazarbayev, this university is after his name. The university is not a private university. It is fully funded from the government of Kazakhstan, but it has a status of being autonomous. So all the decisions are made, especially by the university, because they want really to set an example of the exemplary institution, higher education institution in Kazakhstan, which can then serve as an example for other institutions. So therefore, this university has a mission to translate its best experiences to other universities in a way. So that's one of the missions. And I work at Graduate School of Education, where we have a master program and a PhD program focusing on leadership. So in a way, the discussion that I was earlier alluding is really, we are trying to prepare change agents or people who are very versed in terms of the latest ideas, knowledge, or in terms of educational reform. So they can really play active role, positioning themselves as future leaders of education.
Lovely, Duishon. I think it's open to international students, isn't it?
It is open, and this university is relatively new. It is new. It's only maximum 10 or 11 years since it was established. And the university is actively trying to bring the students, international students. And this year we have one Pakistani student in our doctoral program from northern areas of Pakistan, actually. His name is Noor, and he's a graduate of master's program from Aga Khan University. Why university is very interested? Because according to Bologna principal criteria, so it is checked in the accreditation, university needs to have minimum of 10% of its students' body from abroad. So university is trying actively to bring them, and of course there are different scholarships for international students. Of course, students, if there is a funder who can support the student from outside, I think they are welcome. But university also, if the student is exceptionally gifted student and they takes all the examinations at a very high level, then they can be provided with a scholarship from the university, its own internal resources.
Excellent, Duishon. Thank you. And this information is very useful for potential students, across the globe. Maybe for this first interview, the final question that I would like to ask you is your personal pedagogy, your personal, what we call creed of teaching. What is your personal core teaching philosophy that you use on a daily basis? And you think why you have become such a great professor? If you would like to comment on your personal way of looking at the students, at education, and the meaning of life.
Let me share my views about my teaching philosophy. I think, I don't think I am that special, that different from many other professors. I think we have so many excellent professors at Nazarbayev University, but nevertheless, I have won 3 awards, teaching awards, as the best professor. But I think this is, I consider, because I was fortunate to have met great educators in my life. For example, Kazim Bakis, he's a remarkable educator. Unfortunately, he died, but he was a truly inspirational educator.
The director of ID, right?
First director of ID, founding director of ID, Kazim Bakis from Guyana, then he came from Alberta, Canada. Then, of course, in Canada, at Toronto, I have met I got knowledge from great professors, as you also know, Dennis Thiessen, Stephen Anderson, Kenneth Leithwood, Joe Farrell, Mary Beatty, many other professors. Andy Hargreaves was also my teacher there. Michael Fullan didn't teach me, but Michael Fullan, we were able to see him quite often in the elevator or coffee places. So these
Yeah,
were professors. From each of them, I took something valuable, but also a lot of professors who taught me in Kyrgyzstan when I was doing my undergraduate degree or at school. From each of them, I learned something. But I think what kind of principles I really greatly value in teaching is that being really compassionate and caring for each student, and also helping students to realize their own potential, valuing what they bring rather than trying to really impose my own ideas and throw my knowledge at them. I try to see what kind of knowledge and experiences they bring to the classroom, so that I think and each of our students, they, especially if it's a diverse body of the students, each of them brings so much cultural, educational, life experiences, and it will be a great miss out if we don't capitalize on them. I think that's what I try, and also I try to give opportunities for the students to take ownership for the classes, for the courses, because I tell them that this is your course. Tell me how we can make it better so that you can learn maximum. These are a few ideas about my teaching. I don't know.
Excellent, Duishon. Very important ideas. My submission is that you touched on a very important nerve. I personally become very sensitive about these issues. My problem with the modern education, as we have been discussing, as you know, is seeing knowledge not something to be given, not a product to be handed over, but rather knowledge acquisition. I don't like even acquisition also, because knowledge is always in the process of production. So giving a sense of appreciation, how a knowledge is constructed by each person, each individual, no matter how stupid one is, no matter how hobbledehoy one is, everybody constructs his or her own knowledge. It's subjective. It's a very strong subjective process. So I think good professors like yourself, the way I have felt everywhere, I studied around 8 universities, the professors who encourage this self-construction of knowledge, as you rightly pointed out, is a huge issue. Some of the very fine professors always encourage this subjective, the personal process of knowledge construction, and make people very creative in their own ways. Thank you very much, Duishon. This is just a brilliant way of looking at education. We'll continue to talk, but if you want to say anything final, our time is up almost, but I welcome if you want to say something that I haven't asked about.
नहीं, जबरदस्त मेरा दोस्त. अभी हम इंटरव्यू का उर्दू में बात कर सकते हैं.
Please.
बहुत प्यारा बात हुआ आपके साथ. डॉक्टर साहब, बहुत शुक्रिया. आप बहुत बेहतरीन आदमी है. मेरा बहुत सोच है, हमेशा मैं सोच करता हूँ हमारे बेहतरीन टाइम कनाडा में बेहतरीन टाइम हुआ. हम दोनों के बहुत अच्छा सोहबत और होना था. ये इस बारे के में when I was in Pakistan, I really enjoyed meeting great people, great friends, but also I was able to immerse into Pakistani culture a little bit, and I learned few verses, and maybe I would like to propose this to you. If you like, you can sing it with me. Especially today is an Independence Day of Kyrgyzstan. I will be, but this song is about Pakistan. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Ye jazba junoon to himmat nahar,
क्या
ये
बात।
जज्बा जुनून तो हिम्मत न हार जुस्तजू जो करे वो छुए आसमां मेहनत अपनी होगी पहचान कभी ना भूलो सबकी नजरों में पाकिस्तान कभी ना भूलो पाकिस्तान ये तुम्हारा पाकिस्तान ये हमारा किर्गिस्तान ये तुम्हारा
क्या बात।
किर्गिस्तान ये हमारा
किर्गिस्तान जिंदाबाद। आज बर्थडे है तो लॉट्स ऑफ कंग्रेचुलेशंस एंड कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स. Duishon, just as I said, this is the end of nothing but the beginning of hopefully so many things. Duishon, I am amazed कि आप उर्दू भूले नहीं हैं, न सिर्फ भूले नहीं हैं बल्कि नगमे भी भूले नहीं हैं.
नहीं एक बात है ये उर्दू का मसला नहीं है डॉक्टर साहब उर्दू का मसला नहीं ये दिल का मसला है हबीब कुकिंग ऑयल
दिल दिल पाकिस्तान.
दिल पाकिस्तानी
By the way, ये मन पाकिस्तान का भी जो ना फ्रीडम का मंथ है, you know, interesting enough, 14th August, you know, Pakistan is very special in terms of particularly the national songs, you know, very inspiring songs, philosophical songs, I must say. Those poets who have composed them is just superb, excellent. तो दुशान ये human connectivity का एक privilege है when we actually think of each other as interdependence, integrated with each other. You know, sky is the limit. जब हम language, borders वगैरह की बुनियाद पर अपना आप को divide करते हैं, so we are totally different people. But when we look at each other from this humane perspective, as I said, we are indeed one. We have been one. We will be one. So great pleasure, Duishon, talking to you from such a long distance, me sitting in Houston and you sitting in Astana in Central Asia, and still talking like being together is a great privilege. Thank you very much. You have been so generous to share your ideas from the depth of your heart, as I can see from your expressions, Duishon. It has been great pleasure. And I'm sure our audience, wherever they are listening, they will be listening to this video, will thoroughly enjoy your talk and take home certain key messages from this talk. नाज़रीन इकराम, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. आपने इस वीडियो को सुना. आप देख लें कि दुनिया के अंदर डिफरेंट थिंकर्स डिफरेंट जगहों पर कैसे सोचते हैं और इनकी सोच से हम कैसे फायदा उठा सकते हैं. आइए हम मिलकर डॉक्टर दुशान का शुक्रिया अदा करें कि उन्होंने आज हमें इतना टाइम दिया अपने यूनिवर्सिटी टाइम से बचाकर और हमारे साथ अपने ज़र्रीन ख्यालात शेयर किया. इंतज़ार फरमाइए और भी बहुत थिंकर्स आगे आएंगे, अपने ख्यालात का इजहार करेंगे. थैंक यू वेरी मच. आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Duishon, thank you very much once again for sparing time out of your busy schedule and sharing your wonderful ideas. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.